This interview that I did with my grandparents, I broke it up into a few different pieces and I covered a couple of different chapters. So I obviously talked about, being grandparents and taking care or being apart over different generations and also transitioning from being parents to parents and grandparents. The second part of the interview was about taking care of elderly parents. My mom's mom lives on her own in California. She's 102 years old. She turns 103 this coming Independence Day, which is probably one of the greatest birthdays ever. And she's very independent. She she's very in need of help. But like my grandmother talks about in the interview, she's very independent and very against just getting help. An interesting side of the interview that I saw was my grandpa talking about my grandma and her sisters needing to take care of themselves, um, and not necessarily putting themselves before their mother, but making sure that their physical needs are taken care of as well, as they are essentially they're older themselves, so they need to be able to take care of themselves while also taking care of their mother and their responsibility to her to take care of her. So that was definitely an interesting perspective to get that I didn't really think about much, growing up. I just knew that Grandma Dina lives in California and she's very independent, but she also needs a little help. I didn't necessarily think of my immediate grandma and her sisters. So that was definitely an interesting side to see. And my grandpa gave some really good advice towards the end of the interview as well about preparing to take care of elderly parents. Yeah. There's a moment in this interview where my grandpa talks about the stereotypes and stereotypical personalities and roles of grandpa, which I found very sad because personally in my own life and in my own experience, I don't see that. I see my grandpa as someone who's always been around and always wanted to be around and always very happy. Definitely very wanting to be very involved, but not necessarily he just wants to know what's going on. He just wants to know about us, and I was always very grateful for that. So I think that was a huge thing, seeing that my grandpa felt that way, and a huge learning experience for me to express gratitude not just for him but for everyone, and express my appreciation for the things that they do.
When we first joined the church, neither of us, Grandpa nor I, had very good examples of um, how a marriage should be. And I remember watching people in the ward and people that had grown to admire, and I could see how they treated one another with respect. And also, I never heard anybody criticize their husbands. Of course, as I'm speaking of women, and I think that's very important to have a good marriage, is because once you start criticizing, the thought is in your mind, and sharing your criticism about your spouse with someone else, that doesn't alleviate your feelings or the problem that you're feeling. In fact, what it does, it makes it grow bigger because you think of it more and more instead of trying to remember that your spouse loves you and that you yourself aren't perfect either.
I imagine you're seeing Johnny Lingo in your class.
um, actually, we haven't watched
Have you
that.
ever heard of it?
I have. I've watched it in Sunday school in seminary, but we didn't watch it in this class. No,
It's a good idea.
it is.
And it's very true. You need to buoy each other up constantly. And you need to learn not to take what somebody says at face value. You need to pause and think, well, where's that coming from? Why was that said? How do I deal with that? What am I supposed to do from here?
Mhm.
Now, that's hard. I seldom do it.
That's not true. I remember years ago, I went to a shower and there was a woman at the shower, probably younger than I am now. And I must
Much younger.
I must have been, I must have been about 25, 26, young. And this was a baby shower, and the women were all talking. And all of a sudden, one woman said, I'll never forget this. She said, I get so mad at my husband because he leaves his big shoes out. And he was a big guy. And she said, and when I have to get up after him to help my kids in the middle of the night, I trip over them. And so now I've learned to throw them. I've learned to throw them under the bed. And the lady that was my age or younger really said, other people commented about that and thought it was so funny. And they talked about their husbands. Yeah, so-and-so does such and such. I don't remember. That comment I remembered. And a lady, Sister Leach, said, I wish my husband was alive so that I could trip over his shoes. Completely different attitude. Well, I think unfortunately for us, we never lived real close to our children that had children.
Mhm.
So if we wanted to visit, we would go visit,
Right.
and we learned real quick that we don't give advice. We're there to support and to love, and we loved having grandchildren, but every new set of parents feel like they want to do it their own. Now, a lot of times we're asked for, and then of course we can give advice, but
This is a challenge that is even more difficult than marriage. Because young couples, when they get married, they know it all. And
I was just gonna say, the advice is really never welcome until it's needed.
right.
sometimes long after. I have some real serious personality flaws. And one of them, and this kind of goes together, one of them is that I've got a memory like an elephant. I might not ever get back at somebody. I might never desire to get back at somebody, but Grandpa remembers everything. And that makes it challenging. I can remember an incident, and this was a long time ago, where I was expressing excitement about doing things with my grandchildren, and the comment was, well, that's something that a dad does. And no matter how intended, I've always remembered that. And many, many things that I wished I had have done or could have been able to do have gone by the wayside because I figured it's not my place. I'm not supposed to be there. And that's unfortunate. I think that my grandchildren have missed out on a lot, and I've missed out on a lot. You really need to be open and honest and leave it there. Don't probe, don't reiterate, don't go over and over, unless, like you said, unless it's asked for.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with great-grandchildren. And it doesn't make any difference how old they are. Even things recently to where I inquired about a grandchild and it was taken as if I were probing and disappointed when I was just interested, wanted to know, wanted to share. And so grandmas are able to get away with it a lot more, being involved. But grandpas are a lot of times left out. You never go to grandpa's house. You always go to grandma's house.
Even our prophet, was it our prophet, this one or Hinckley, I'm not sure which one, said that very thing, that why is it that our grandkids always say they're going to grandma's house and not to grandpa's? Or, when we would give gifts, they'd say, thanks, Grandma. And I'd always remind them, I bought it, but Grandpa paid for it, So for some reason, grandpas don't always get recognized.
Grandpa, I wanted to say, going off of what you were talking about there, is back when I was being baptized, I'm sure you remember that you confirmed me, a member of the church, and I have actually thought about that a lot, not over the years, but more recently, being up here at school, and I'm very grateful for that I had a grandpa to do that for me. And I think talking about, you talk about the reputation that grandpas have and versus a grandma, and I think more, or at least in my own personal experience, I think it's more the representation in media and like movies, TV shows and stuff like that, the grumpy old man and stuff like that. But I don't know, I never really saw that. I always had, I was only 7 when my dad's father passed away, but my memories of him were a happy, joyful man, and my memories of you are a jokester and a happy, having a smile on your face all the time, and of course someone who confirmed me and a member of the church. So I'm grateful that that's not the experience that I have, or the reputation or perception of my grandfather that I have.
Grandma's not an easy person to help.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, it has taught me patience. And even though sometimes she doesn't want the help or acknowledge the help, I have to myself think that's okay, because that's what I should be doing as a daughter and as a daughter of God. Mom has been difficult through the years because she's always been so independent.
Mm-hmm.
She's still independent.
Yeah.
So,
which is amazing.
but we see needs, and she has not allowed us to help her.
Mm.
So that was frustrating. And just lately, this last time that Grandpa and I went down, we were able to clean portions of her garage so she could get to her washer without tripping.
Mm-hmm.
And she has actually called me and thanked me a couple of times. Honestly, Joseph, that's the first time in my life that I remember her acknowledging and being thankful. She might have been thankful before, but she never ever said it, you know. And this time she has said, oh, it's been so nice. I can go in and, you know, it's just so nice and cheery in there for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been really nice.
You know that this house was built with consideration to Grandma Dina.
Mm-hmm.
We got a room downstairs. It's really a master bedroom that can be shut off. We got a nice big closet, private shower, everything else. It's nice. And we've got an elevator in the house. It's only 2 stories, but I don't know if Grandma Dina's ever walked up or down the stairs in this house,
I don't think,
ever.
and that was for her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Grandma has been extraordinarily considerate of her mother. It's been a difficult thing for me because my protective instincts are towards your grandmother, not towards your great grandmother. And over the years, that's become more pronounced. Grandma Dina is famous. Everybody sees her good side. But I told your grandmother quite a while ago that she's too old to take care of her mother. Now, she calls her virtually every day. Dina gets phone calls from all 3 of her daughters almost every day. She's got at least a dozen phone calls a week. And that doesn't count the times she calls here.
Yeah.
So she has plenty of attention. But your grandmother is 81 years old. She's not going to be a nurse at that age. And so me, grumpy old grandpa, I said that she cannot live here. She can visit for 2-3 weeks. That's fine. But she's of an age to where she almost needs constant care. And so when we go down to Grandma's house, Grandma Dina's house, it's a strain on us because Grandma Dina wants to be right in the middle of us all the time and demands a lot from her daughter. In the summer, that's fine. I can go lay on the beach, so no big deal. But it's not like it was 50 years ago. Because 50 years ago, often a grandparent was taken care of by their children. It can't happen now because Dina's 102 years old. And her daughters she's got one daughter, it's 84. So it becomes very difficult. In fact, we just made some moves this last week to help that situation out because the oldest daughter was beginning to be impacted physically and mentally.
And
And not
health-wise.
And it wasn't good for her.
So, but Mom, you know, somebody told me, who was it? I can't remember, but they said, you know, you're very unique. Most people's parents don't live to be 102 years old, you know, and Grandma is so determined to be on her own, which, and doesn't want any help, but really needs help. But this last time we were able to convince her to get help.
Very little help.
So,
But
yeah.
When was that? When was this last time?
About 2 weeks ago, we were down. 3 weeks ago, maybe, Grandma thought she broke her washing machine.
Mm.
And so we were gonna go down, clean the garage so that they could take the washing machine out and bring in a new one. While we were there, we discovered it wasn't broken, but we still cleaned an area for her so that it would be safe. And then in the meantime, we also ordered and bought a microwave so that she could not have to cook all the time, because she just warms up food. But Gloria, you know, my sister can't drive her to the doctor's or the hair appointment or to the store anymore because she's having health problems. So luckily, Mom agreed for us to get someone to take her to the doctor's to get her hair done and to go to the store. And that really is helpful. We've also put cameras in Mom's home, because if there have been times when the three of us call and none of us can get a hold of her, we're afraid that she's fallen down the stairs or just fallen in the house. This way, we kind of check on her once or twice. And if I don't see her all day long, and if she doesn't answer the phone all day long, then I'll call one of my sisters, because one of us hopefully has gotten a hold of her. So that's kind of what we've done.
We're constantly talking about being humble and not seeking after wealth. I don't think you should seek wealth for its wealth's sake. But even I, with our good circumstances, wished we had a lot more so we could help in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
So at your age, pay attention, work hard, and put away so that 50 years from now, we have the ability to help your family.